A lot to cover in today's video. We're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions offensive line getting mad love from Hard Knocks from the Giants. We're going to talk about that. Jared Goff gets big-time love in a draft. If you're to draft players and no players on a team, where would he be drafted? Well, got some good news for you, what you think the NFL players think of Mr. Jared Goff, and it's good. We're going to talk about the Lions secondary. A lot of this has to do with the Lions secondary. Terrion Arnold, what do everybody think of the Lions' new and improved secondary? You know, what do they think about the Lions roster from that standpoint? Let's go. Again, if you're a fan of the Detroit Lions, subscribe to the channel. Yesterday, we actually gained a nice little amount of subscribers, at least a little over 20. So if you're one of those individuals watching this who are not subscribed, literally train cramps about 3 weeks, and it's going to be nonstop Lions news, and you'll be updated fully. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel and get that thing going. We're going to start with the Detroit Lions offensive line getting praise from Hard Knocks. Here you go. So this is what was said on Hard Knocks last night, and it is a love towards the Detroit Lions offensive line. It says, did Saquon have his best year? These are the Giants people talking. No, and I think he'd say the same thing. The other guys on the franchise tag don't either, but out of the guys, traits-wise, he had the most. Put him, he's talking about Saquon Barkley, behind Detroit's offensive line. Put him behind Philly's offensive line. There might be more value on another team. So they believe that Saquon's good, but you know, if he could go to the Detroit Lions or another team, he's going to be way better because their offensive line is outstanding. Continues on here and says, Swift was kind of an interesting one. They're talking about Swift. Price point would be a big deal in that this guy, from a physical standpoint, can make up some of the things you lose with Saquon from an explosive standpoint, from pass game standpoint. If you're signing him, he's going to be the total package. You're going to pair him with somebody. Say he's one of the guys you sign a committee style. So if you're trying to understand what he's starting to say here, he's saying that the Detroit Lions offensive line and Philly's offensive line is really good. Saquon's kind of an average quarterback, and DeAndre Swift could do the same, if not more, with their offensive line. So again, they're talking about, they're downing Saquon. They're showing love to Philly and Detroit Lions offensive line. Why? Because we have the best one in football, and Philly's got a really good offensive line up there, top three. You could put Philly at 1, or you could put them at 2. Either way, they're just telling you that those two offensive lines are really good. So shout out to Decker, Ragnow, Sewell, Zeitler, and Glasgow. Question for you. Rank the Detroit Lions offensive line. 1 if you think they're the best, 32 if you don't. Let's get into some love about Sub-Zero, also known as Terrion Arnold. And I'm sure you've already heard this before. Now, Derek Barnes, he named Terrion Arnold Sub-Zero as a nickname. So here it is. It says, Lions teammates Derek Barnes has already given him a nickname, alluding to both the jersey number and the ability to freeze out receivers. You see it now, you call him Sub-Zero out there, and they're doing what they're going to do. Barnes said of Arnold. So Terrion Arnold is getting love. Now, this article that was showing love towards Terrion Arnold, you can first off see that Sub-Zero is an epic name, and that's why I want to put it on here. But now you're seeing people who's not even part of an NFL roster. This was just a draft, and they're seeing what's going on with Terrion Arnold, and they're saying this guy is absolutely going to be a good corner in this year's draft. And he's going to be a starter. They're talking about potentially starter. He's already a starter. If you look at the depth chart right now, he's number 2. At some point, it doesn't really matter if he's 1 or 2. It doesn't really matter. We'll see it probably a switch throughout the season. Carlton Davis is really good as well, so maybe it doesn't happen, this year, but he's really, really good. Really good. And I think the Lions secondary is going to be really good as well, and I'm not the only one who thinks that. I am not. When you look at the players for the Detroit Lions secondary, you have a good mix of veterans as well as a mix of younger players. Right here, this is just the outside guys. Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold. Instantly good right there. Kendall Vilder, who's a starter for last year for the Detroit Lions. Emmanuel Mosley, who we thought could have big things, and he was injured, but he's back on the team on a low-cost deal, and I like that. Khalil Dorsey, special teams player, and good. And we're not even talking about the nickel corners as of right now, or you want to put nickel corners where you want to put it. But Brian Branch will be your nickel 1, Amik Robertson 2, Ennis Rakestraw 3. The foundation of the secondary, at least the corners, completely revamped, is amazing how different and better it looks. And you pair them up here, folks, with these safeties. Kerby Joseph, we like him here. Ifeatu Melifonwu was showing out big time at the end of last year. Brandon Joseph showing some love. CJ Moore is the veteran. The Lions got a legit scary secondary. And I'm talking about a really, really good one here. And the next topic we're going to be talking about is where do you rank the Lions secondary? But when you compare it to last year, where probably the Lions secondary was 29, 30, 31, 32 in that ranking, they were that poor. The improvement of the secondary from last year to this year is astronomical. It's going from a garbage secondary to an extremely talented secondary, and it is starting with Terrion Arnold. So I got a question for you. Do you believe that Terrion Arnold will start for the Detroit Lions? Y for yes and N for no. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. John Costco is talking about the Lions secondary, and this is what he's got to say. The Lions have completely rebuilt their secondary in the hope that they have new pieces will develop the group into a top unit. Safety Ifeatu Melifonwu was named the 9th highest grade safety in 2023, while Brian Branch posted a 78.9 overall grade in an excellent rookie season. The team added cornerbacks Amik Robertson and Carlton Davis this offseason and picked up Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw in the first 2 rounds of the 2024 NFL Draft. The speed in which the unit can mesh together will determine its effectiveness in 2024. And I concur with that sentiment. It's all going to be about gelling and getting these players on the same page. And Ant-Man talked about this from Royal Lions UK, and I agree with him. When you have a lot of new players, it's going to take a little bit of time to gel. We're talking about understanding the scheme because a lot of these new players, or a lot of these players that are on this team, besides maybe Emmanuel Mosley and Khalil Dorsey and maybe a Vildor, these guys don't understand the scheme. They're new to it. So they're new to Lions. They're new to the defensive scheme. And these guys got to gel. It's just got to come together. Now, there's a lot of veterans here, and I think it can come together quicker than probably General. And Terrion Arnold's a really smart guy, but it may take a little bit. But that's okay. That's not a bad thing because it didn't matter what we had last. You could have had them all together, the secondary. The secondary was garbage. And now it is much improved. So even it's going to take a time to gel from week 1. It's already astronomically better than what it was last year. It really is. I mean, you got folks saying right now, when you look at this whole thing, that the Lions secondary absolutely could be one of the best in football. And that's absolutely kind of shocking to say. Because if you're looking at PFF's secondary ranking, and I got to let you know about this, PFF secondary ranking showing a lot of good. They have the Lions secondary at 11 in the NFL out of 32. We were last year, again, 29 through 32. You could pick 81. We jumped to 11 per PFF. Outstanding. And look, now PFF is just one a simple number, right? You don't want to go everything on PFF. I look at a lot of these PFFs or the stats and everything like that, or that type of situation, like a presidential poll. There's facts to it, but it's not all the data that you want to see. So, look, I take it and I like it. Will the Lions secondary be 11 by the end of the year? I think by the end of the year, it could be. I mean, it's crazy to think that the Lions secondary made such a significant jump because it's hard to imagine because we have had a bad secondary since, 2014, Darius Slade and Quandre Diggs era. It's been a really long time, so it's hard to believe when you have seen such bad play, but these players are good, and I think they're going to play much better than they did in a long time. So I got a question for you. Just understanding all of that, what PFF said in the players, where do you rank the Detroit Lions secondary? Do you have them at 11? Do you have them at still butt cheeks? In the comment section, you place where you think they should be. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Jared Goff getting a lot of love from former players and current players, people in the NFL, because they did a redraft. Now, tell you about this redraft. First off, this draft depends on every player in the NFL. So the draft would mean that you draft anybody in the NFL. So if you're the first pick, you could draft Patrick Mahomes, right? And so if maybe you wanted to get, some other player at pick 2, but it's none of the players are on the team and they get redrafted. Jared Goff, surprisingly, he gets respect in this draft. He gets drafted the 10th pick in the draft. That's highly regarded considering there's 1,600 people in the NFL, and Jared Goff doesn't get a lot of respect from the mainstream media, but clearly the players respect him, and when you're taken that high, that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome, and it just shows that people in the NFL, players, coaches of that nature, people who are actually not just commentators but play the game, understand the value of Jared Goff. And I think that's something that we must understand as well. As players respect his game, they respect him as a player and what he has been doing for the Detroit Lions and before, even with the Rams. So that's huge. Shout out to Jared Goff. That's a nice compliment to him, knowing that your peers respect you. I think that's quite cool, and I'm sure he'll get comfort from that. In the upcoming videos, we got videos dropping every single day. Even though it's the 4th of July tomorrow, I will be live. Do my 4th of July live cast for you for 1 hour, and we could talk some Lions and have some fun. With that said, folks, adios.